to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Save Your Drama for Your Mama. No other than Mr. Charles Sheppard.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Charles. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
I guess I'm a professor of leadership. I've been teaching leadership now for over 3 decades. It's actually getting close to four. Oh, my goodness. How did that happen? And
So fast.
I know. So uh, it, I actually teach leadership. I have a small biotech company in the oncology space. I have an organizational development consulting firm. I have a lot of different software companies, kind of in how to do training reinforcement or personality assessment. I've built those tools. And that was actually an interesting part. I started out Wang Laboratories and Burroughs Corporation back in the day. So before I got into organizational development consulting, I was in the space of just thinking, I bet you computers are going to be there in the future. And so I graduated from university first and went into the world of sales and account management. And it was there that I actually got a leadership job and realized I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And that set me down a brand new career path where I ended up expanding my education and became a professor of leadership. And I've been teaching leadership now for a long time.
Mr. Charles Shepherd, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge to the world. What's the deeper meaning behind the title Save Your Drama for Your Mama, and how does it reflect the book's core message?
Yeah, it was a little bit. The publisher at the time, I was going to call the book "Leadership is a Choice." You'll even see that in the bottom subtitle, "Drama or Leadership is a Choice." But what he said is, he goes, Charlie, there were 100 books last year published on leadership. There's 100 more this year, and there'll be 100 next year. And he goes, people don't buy business books, they buy business books titles. And so we've got to come up with a better title. And since I contrast drama with leadership, I just went home. I was really frustrated at first because I really wanted to call the book Leadership as a Choice. But it
Mhm.
was an amazing thing when I thought about it, and I came up with the idea the next day is for running with the book called Save Your Drama for Your Mama. It always brings a smile. The hardest thing in some ways around selling a book is to get people engaged. And it was the right advice. He goes, with business books, people buy business book titles. And that one small shift has really opened up. It actually opened up the marketplace for this book early on, and so we've had a lot of success with it. I think the drama part came out of I'd actually was teaching an executive retreat at Rockhurst University where we had leaders coming on in, and we surveyed every single leader before they did the 2 week training, and we surveyed them after the 2 week training. And so whenever you get a opportunity to really transform somebody's lives, it's good to have the data. And the interesting thing was that we discovered is the people that needed the training the most embraced it the least, and the people that needed it the least embraced it the most. And so I, as an educator, was going, I didn't feel like I did my job. So I was trying to figure out what gets in the way of people developing their inherent capabilities around leadership. And the pattern is drama. The people that get stuck in the drama triangle fundamentally have a harder time developing any kind of leadership acumen along those lines. So contrasting drama with leadership became an easier way of teaching leadership. And at the time, they would say, here's what a manager is, here's what a leader is. And that really isn't that great of a contrast because you could be a good manager and also a good leader at the same time. So for me, the better contrast, if somebody's in the drama triangle, it's very difficult for them to be an exceptional leader. And that's the impetus and the story behind how I came to title the book "Save Your Drama for Your Mama." It's not actually giving your drama to your mama. It just became a catchy title along those lines. And how do we make sure that inside of the corporate cultures that we're working with, and we do a lot of work doing organizational development. One of the first things we have to do is we always have to drive the drama out of the culture. And we've become very skilled at making sure that we help people not only get the culture drama free, but how do you get your life drama free? And so inside of the book, it's got those types of insights and key takeaways is how do you eliminate drama out of your own life?
Indeed, too much drama everywhere and a catchy title. Mr. Charles, how did your own experiences with family or interpersonal drama shape advice and stories in this book?
It was interesting in that I actually grew up in an extraordinarily high functioning family. When I started exploring and learning about family dynamics, I was actually exposed to a technology called um, neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. And I was able to work with the co creators of it. And one of the individuals that they worked with was a woman by the name of Virginia Satir, who did family therapy. And so when I was looking at the family therapy as an executive coach, because I didn't have that much drama in my environment, when I would run into executives, sometimes the issues were deeply rooted in their family systems. And so I needed to get a little bit more educated in this arena. And that's what exposed me to Cartman's drama triangle. And it was originally done around script analysis, where you had the hero and you had the victim and you had the adversary. And it got applied to family therapy, where you had somebody who was the persecutor, right? And the victim and the rescuer. And I decided that I needed to upgrade the language so that it would work inside of a business environment. People usually aren't persecuted inside of a business environment. And so we shifted that thinking from we still have victims inside of that environment and people who rescue, but we went and it's more often an adversarial role, and so that creates the patterns of the drama triangle inside of most corporate environments. So, in understanding it from family therapy, I was able to kind of look at corporate cultures. And because I'm doing so much work as an organizational development consultant, the kind of patterns of usually dysfunction in a family or dysfunction in a culture, it's in the relationships and it's more than one relationship. So this became a good kind of diagnostic tool per se to better understand those type of cultural environments.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Charles. And what's the most common feedback you've received from readers about how this book changed their approach to conflict?
I think the most important thing is when people are in the drama triangle, there's a couple of patterns that go along with it. And two of them have to do with thinking. One is an external locus of control, where people understand that, hey, this is being done to me. That's oftentimes when your mindset is like, others are doing this to me, it's very easy to go into the drama triangle. And the other thing, Daniel, is when people sit there and assume negative intent. So if I were to sit here and assume negative intent about you during this podcast, the sound energy that'll come out of me will be very different, right? And so,
Yes.
and and look, it's easy to assume positive intent with people that you like, but it takes a real act of leadership to assume positive intent with people you're challenged by. So the transformations that happen is when people can kind of see themselves in the drama triangle, they can actually go, oh, they get a bit of what you'd call immunity towards it. And then they have tools to get out of the drama triangle. One of the biggest functions to get into the leadership triangle is to actually choose, even something that's like a simple language pattern. If you've ever said, I have to go to work today, right? That's actually a false construct of the mind. You don't have to do it, but because we may have made an agreement or a contract 5 or 6 years ago for our job, we say, "Oh, I have to go to work today." It's analogous to, if somebody was married and they'd say, "Oh, I have to be married today." That's not going to go so well on the home front. If you go home and talk to your spouse or significant other and say, "Hey, I have to be married today," but we apply it to work. And the thing what that does is it takes energy out of the environment. My definition of somebody in the drama triangle fundamentally is that they're taking energy out of the environment. And somebody who's in the leadership triangle is putting energy into the environment. And so those insights that happen through reading the book, through the various chapters, really create this kind of aha or transformational experience for individuals for first understanding that the function of drama is to create more drama. So it gives them a certain amount of drama immunity by having this pattern inside of their mind. And the other thing that happens is they go, "Oh my gosh, if I actually am better skilled at leading from within what we call the leadership triangle," they create a certain amount of immunity to other people's drama.
Indeed. Mr. Charles, how do you distinguish between normal family friction and toxic patterns that need addressing?
I think the first thing that you have to do is to hmm, it's a good question. It really comes down to asking questions to find out what the intent is of other individuals. So, if you have to set a limit with somebody or draw a line in the sand because of how they are behaving, it's useful not to do it from joining them in the drama triangle. So, if somebody's being toxic, if they're really inside of this adversarial role and they're creating drama inside of your life, what's the wound for that person, right? A lot of times having compassion for the other person's behavior will allow you to protect yourself from getting drawn into the drama. Remember when I said earlier, the function of drama is to create more drama. So if you've got somebody that has more of a toxic personality, I find that the easiest methodology to not join in the drama triangle is to have a bit of compassion for them. Sometimes the more aggressive personality, the more wounded the individual is. And if I have a bit of compassion for them, then two things. I don't have to support their behavior, but I don't have to go in and be angry at their behavior, which actually puts me oftentimes inside of the drama triangle. I can just set a limit and not have to join into their worldview.
Yes, definitely. Mr. Charles, what steps can someone take to avoid repeating generational patterns of conflict?
Now you're getting into some pretty deep areas of patterns. It's in the title that leadership is a choice. So drama is hardwired into every culture, into every human being, not as optional as like standard operating equipment. So, what do I mean by that? And when you think about generational, every single individual that's ever been born, right? That's all of your ancestors, Daniel, had to live to the age of procreation, right? We're
Yes.
talking tens of thousands of human beings that live to the age of procreation for your unique genetic code to exist, and the same with mine. So, what did they all have in common if they lived to that age in a very much more dangerous world back in the past? Is they had this innate ability to survive. So, what happens is with this innate ability to survive, we only survived because there were more of us. We worked well in tribes. So, the most fundamental thing that you could do to actually harm a human was not to kill them, but was to exclude them from the tribe. Because if you killed them, it was just over, right? You exclude them from the tribe, it was going to be a slow death living on their own. We had to be a community. So, even teenagers are always looking at, am I included? am I safe inside of this environment? So that's number one. The second one, let's talk a little bit about the safety. We're actually scanning the environment to find out whether it's safe or not for us. And so what happens is we as humans are pretty much hardwired to, am I safe in this environment, and do I have a tribe that are going to take care of me and support me? This gets back to even in biology, of all the animals that are born on the planet Earth, humans are actually um, need to be around a caregiver the longest in order to survive in their environment, right? If you take a mountain goat, it's a mammal just like us, but
Mm-mm.
it can stand up in 30 minutes, it can walk in 60 minutes, and in under 2 hours, it can go up a 45-foot incline. We can't get our head off of the pillow for 3 weeks. So we are dependent. So that means before the higher cognitive centers are switched on inside of the brain, we're almost hardwired that my very needs need to be met from external to me. That's this external locus of control that gets set up very early on. So if we're going to shift out of it, we actually have to understand that this is some of our baseline hardwiring. And that's why the leadership competency is so powerful. If you can create a compelling vision of what you want to architect and create inside of your future, if you can be a catalyst for growth and development and constantly learning, if you can coach others along those lines and create for yourself the ability to be coached, you get to move into this place of intentionality. And that's when we call it leadership as a choice. The word choice is not accidental. We've got about 3 milliseconds before we go into automatic patterns inside of the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So just even taking a breath, right? So you get back to your original question, how do you break it? And the most fundamental thing you can do is to take a breath. Notice that you do have a lot of automatic patterns, and then choose what pattern that you want to fire, right? Daniel, if you were to do this with me right now, and just, I know that people may be watching this, but they can do it at home also. Go ahead and cross your arms. So just cross your arms like this. And now cross your arms the other way.
The other way. Good.
Yeah, go do it the other way. It's kind of hard, right? You kind of like, you do it the natural way. If you interlace your fingers like this, go ahead and do this. And now do it the other way. Notice how that's awkward, right? Believe it or not, you interlaced your fingers the way that you did in utero. And we've got photographs of in utero, and then looking at people at age 20, and they're still interlacing their fingers the exact same way. And not everybody has the right thumb on top, and not everybody has the left thumb on top. So we've got these patterns that are in place. So the only way to break a pattern, the first and foremost, take a breath. Give yourself a moment to activate not just the automatic patterns, but get into where you can actually make a choice of choosing what you want. The more compelling you have a vision for where you want to take your life, or you want to take a relationship, or where you want to create an outcome, the way of staying out of drama is to actually have a compelling vision of what it is you want to architect and create inside of the future. And then take a deep breath. You'll actually get the ability to make a conscious choice for what it is you want to architect and create. Do I still have you there?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that example, Mr. Charles. So, what steps can someone take to avoid repeating generational patterns of conflict?
Conflict? It's again, it's the same pattern. Is you have to first be aware of it. um, Conflict is an interesting dynamic that often is a repeatable pattern. And so if you do have conflict patterns, is just noticing if you're getting emotionally hooked, can you play out the pattern ahead of time? One of the best things to do is, if you notice a pattern inside of either your family or your system, or some pattern, doesn't matter whether it's conflict or it's anything, If you want to actually shift a pattern and you want to shift it quickly, exaggerate it. Exaggerate it. Just go over and above and exaggerate the pattern as much as you can. It actually creates, in many ways, one of the fastest neurological kind of gaps. If you take a pattern, right, and say you're always getting hooked by a particular human being, role play out how you're really hooked and go over the top with whatever the behavior is. It's an amazing exaggeration of a particular pattern starts to break apart the automaticness of it. And if you do exaggeration, you can actually shift one of those patterns into something where you now have choice on it. It's a really easy hack, and one that's pretty, there's some more sophisticated tools that I could suggest, but probably not on a podcast. But if you want something that's simple, easy to apply, whatever the pattern is that you want to change, whether it's a conflict pattern, a drama pattern, or any aspect of your life, exaggerate the opposite, exaggerate the thing that you don't want until your body kind of gets exhausted by it. And with the exhaustion of it, you're opening up again these windows where you can make a choice for the future.
So, Mr. Charles, what advice for someone who wants to rebuild trust after a major family fallout?
Yeah. So when it's inside of the family, the most important tool you can do is clean up. Here's what most people do when they're apologizing. We cover this in a book. And if it's in there and I say, "Hey Daniel, I'm sorry I showed up late for the podcast, but my Uber driver was late to pick me up." So that's what most people do is they avoid all accountability because they excuse it was the external circumstance that means that I'm not at fault. Instead, what people need to learn how to do is just say, "Hey, Daniel, I'm sorry I didn't show up on time. I didn't manage my time well. I didn't put in a contingency." The Everybody wants everybody else to be accountable, and people will do what you do. So if you want to create trust inside of a relationship, you got to demonstrate it first. And one of the best ways you can demonstrate it is to clean up the situation and then recommit to what it is that you need to do. But you need to model the behavior, right? You
Right.
actually have to sit there and say, "Hey, I didn't do this well. Here's what you can count on for me for in the future." And don't throw in the excuse. Everybody knows how to apologize with an excuse that basically says, "I'm not at fault." That's the automatic pattern. You really do differentiate when you just sit there and go, "Hey, I apologize. I didn't handle that well. Here's what I'm going to do in the future. You can count on that." And that starts to create safety inside of the environment.
Mr. Charles, thank you for your advice. As an author and a professor, what are your short term and long term goals?
My short term and long term goals. Wow. I've got a lot of long term goals. But the latest one is I've actually started a university called World Bridge University. And so I've been teaching at Holt International Business School, and I, it takes a certain amount of money for students to come to the United States to kind of get that level of novel, innovative executive MBAs or MBAs or masters of international business or masters of international marketing. It costs a lot of money. So my goal is to take the tools that I'm actually delivering in high potential programs for Fortune 2000 companies and actually weave those very same tools into an executive MBA, but make sure the world can have access to it. So we've engineered something called a daily EMBA, which is micro learnings. So it becomes a 10-minute to 15-minute lecture somebody can do every single morning, which tasks them to do a real behavior. So it's real plays, it's real exercises. It's not abstract cases. The people are doing it during their workday and applying it, and then writing down what they learned at the end of the day. And what it is, it's a very time efficient way to get to the things that matter most, which is AI is going to allow AI is going to do a better internal rate of return than somebody can do on an Excel spreadsheet. There's just things that are no longer as needed inside of somebody graduating with an MBA. But the two things that everybody's going to need going forward into the future is the ability to influence, negotiate, communicate, and then how do you lead cross-functional teams? How do you lead when you don't have the authority? And so those two competencies is where we're focusing the daily EMBA, and that's my big thing going forward in the future is how do I create a compelling cohort led virtual university that has all the power of being in a classroom when you're doing it in micro learning, synchronous with other leaders going through it at the same time. So that's kind of what I'm up to for the future.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Charles, and looking forward for those upcoming books. Please do come
Yeah,
again and let's talk about it.
that'd
And
be fantastic.
and before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in fifth season, Comedy 101 in a second season, Food 101 in fifth season as well, Geography 101 in fourth season, and Love Letters in third season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Charles, what's one actionable takeaway you hope readers carry into their daily lives?
One is actively choose whatever it is you want to choose. Like if you choose to go buy the book, notice how I wove that in.
Yeah.
If you choose to go buy the book, but it is that's just kind of tongue in cheek. It's actively not being in the automatic patterns, right? If there's one piece of advice I can suggest, and if you were to take actually one other skill set away, which is if you can spend a week assuming positive intent with every single individual you come in contact with, it'll be life changing for your own energy and for the energy of the people that you're interacting with.
Mr. Charles Sheppard, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. And we are hoping for more and more and more empowering books to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, indeed. So, where do people can buy your books, Mr.
Oh,
Charles?
it's Amazon, pretty much. Right now, it's actually we first published it in 2011. So you can get the book on Amazon. You can get a used hard copy. You can get a new print on demand copy, and so all of it's there. And enjoy. Leave 5-star reviews if you do get it. That's my one ask. It does help.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Charles Sheppard because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Charles, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.